Hey, Paul here for Retro Gaming Arts, and today we're going to go inside the mind of a modder and figure out why somebody would want to do something like this, like put S-Video ports in a Sega Genesis. We're going to talk about a couple different aspects as to why. The first one and the biggest one being the perspective. Second being the personal history. Third being creativity and curiosity. Fourth being the rewarding feeling that you get. And then fifth is preserving gaming history, which is a awkward one because modding actually destroys, but we're going to talk about it a little later on. So let's go check out these reasons why. Alright, so the biggest one is probably the perspective. Now, with anything that you have, whether it be a game console, a car, an electrical appliance, or even your own home, there's one way to look at it. It's saying, I have this. It does this, this, and this. I need those three things, and this does it, and it makes me happy, and I enjoy it. Now, the other way to look at it is, I have this. It does A, B, and C. How can I make it do X, Y, and Z? How can I make it better? How can I make it more mine? And it's that perspective on anything, really, because you could have a car and say, I have a car, it's awesome, but how can I make it faster? How can I make it look cooler? You could put a turbo in it and you can paint it. It's the same thing with modding consoles. It's like, okay, this console outputs this video quality and it has a black shell. How can I make it output a better video quality? And how can I make it my favorite color? So that's another way to look at it. And that's the way I look at everything. Everything in life is just like, this is what I have. How can I make it better? And a big thing about that is the curiosity of how it works. So curiosity and creativity go along with the perspective in a little ways. And it's about each and every single person is creative in their own way, and each and every single person has their own curiosity in their own way. It's what makes us all unique. It's what makes us all different people. And it's really interesting that we're all like that. But the curiosity of how does this work? Why does it do what it does? Is what fuels you to learn about it. And then once you learn about it, then you acquire the knowledge on how can I make it better. Sometimes if you just have something and it works and it does it, you sometimes don't need to know anything more else about it because you're content and you're happy and you're satisfied. And that's okay. And it's also okay to not be content or not be satisfied until you figure out how it works. So that curiosity of needing to know how it works is what fuels your own creativity on to find out what else you can do with it. Whether or not somebody else has done it before or it hasn't been done before, that's all, it doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, if it makes you happy, that is what matters. And if it makes you satisfied. Now, sometimes it's hard to satisfy your own creativity or curiosity, but that's a whole nother segment. So I think an individual's personal history goes a long way with their own creativity and their own curiosity. Now, when I was 4 years old, I used to take apart every toy that I got. And if it had a motor in it, it was a good toy because I could take that motor from one toy and put it in another toy and swap the motors and one would go faster and it was just awesome. So when I was 6, I got my very first game console, which was the Sega CDX. It was a Sega Genesis and a Sega CD built into one. And I was so curious about how did it work? Like, how can I play something on the TV that's interacting with me through this? Like, how does this little box do it? And the curiosity just ate me alive for about maybe 2 years before I took it apart. And I took every single individual piece and part out to examine it and try to figure out how it worked. I was like 8, so I mean, I ended up taking it all apart and then destroying it because I didn't know how to put it back together, which was a life lesson right there. It's like, okay, if I'm going to take something apart, I need to learn how to put it back together so it works. And that lesson that was actually very difficult for me to learn. It wasn't until I was like 11 or 12 until I was able to take my stuff apart and put it back together normally, unless it was like something little and easy. But as for a game console, it took me quite so many years to be able to do that. And that was rewarding for me, to be able to take my stuff, take it apart, learn about it somewhat, try to figure it out at least, and then put it back together. And then it still worked, was like awesome. And I feel that I regretted destroying my game console for still to this day, especially when you see the prices of CDXs now. Still regret it, but I mean, I kind of don't, because the lessons that I had learned from that, because that was the one and only time I ever destroyed something of mine like that. Because now I'm able to put everything back together, and now I have a better understanding of how they work, and now I can do more to them. So I feel each individual's personal history and background goes a long way with whatever it is that you're doing in life. So a big reason why to do this and why to continue to do it is the rewarding feeling that you get, the fulfillment, the enjoyment. And it's not only just for me, but it's when I see the look on other people's faces and how happy they are when they're like, hey, I have this and it's broken and I want it to work again. And I'm saying, okay, let's make it work again. And I'm like, did you know we could also do this, and this to it? And some people are like, oh, that's cool. I don't want any of that. I want it to work the way it was meant to work, and I want it to be normal again. I'm like, okay, we can do that. And when you fix it for somebody, they're happy because now something that's important to them isn't ruined, and that makes people happy, which is rewarding and fulfilling to me to see that happen for people. Now the other half is when somebody's like, hey, I have this, it's broken, it doesn't work, what's going on? I'm like, okay, we can fix it, and we can also do this, and this. And some people are like, what? You could, like, yes, please, let's do that. Let's do all of those things. And then when we do that, the happiness and the joy that it brings to that person to say, hey, my thing now does all these extra things. It's awesome. So fulfilling and so rewarding to make somebody happy like that. So that's a huge part of it as well, and that's totally worth it. It's very, very worth it. So the last part is preserving gaming history. Now, with repairs and fixing these broken consoles, that's preserving gaming history, because there's only 10 million game consoles made, or for PlayStation 2, 155 million units made. How many of them are rotting away in a basement that got flooded, or in an attic and the people who owned it moved and it's just still sitting in an attic, or it's in a junkyard because it got thrown away, etc., in a landfill? So the amount is always decreasing. So when you can take a broken one and repair it and fix it and make it work again, it's like you're saving and preserving the history. Now, when it comes to modding, obviously you're not exactly preserving history because you're drilling holes into the side of a piece of gaming history. That's why it's very important, for me at least, to very intensely do my first one. Take an extremely long time to get it right, because I don't ever accidentally want to destroy one and ruin a piece of history like my CDX. Never again. So it's enhancing, but you do have to like drill holes in it or whatever it may be, and you don't ever want to ruin it or mess it up, because then you'll lose a piece of gaming history. That's why I said in my game room tour, I'm very against like taking a console and hacking it to bits to mod another one, like RGB modding a Nintendo by taking the PlayChoice 10 RGB PPU out of the arcade system and putting it into the Nintendo. You're destroying an arcade cabinet to mod your Nintendo. Or taking the AGS 101 taking the AGS 101 Game Boy Advance SP screen, taking the screen out of this Game Boy Advance and putting it into another Game Boy. That's destroying one of these to mod another. I'm very against anything like that. And I try never, ever, ever to do any mods that would ever do that. Preserving gaming history. So there's one part that I left out, but it's a different sort of topic. I actually said it in my PS3 controller mod video. And it's the fact that us as people, we can do whatever we want to do. You can do anything you want. If this isn't what you want to do, it doesn't matter. Whatever it is that you want to do, you can go and you can do it. You really can. This is what I wanted to do. This is all I wanted. So I go out and I just did it. And I learned and I taught myself and I went out and I did it because I wanted to, because it was awesome. And I've always enjoyed it. Now, whatever it may be that you enjoy, doesn't matter what it is. Like, you can do it no matter what. That's what my parents told me as a little kid. And like, they weren't wrong. Anybody can do anything. And that doesn't really necessarily go along. Maybe it should have been in the perspective view, the perspective part, but I do feel it was an important part that I did want to mention. Now, I want to know what you guys think about modding consoles, so leave it in the comments below. Do you think that preserving history, like on that whole part, what do you think about that? Do you think modding consoles is destroying history, or do you think if modding consoles correctly is enhancing history and bringing it more up to date? Let me know what you think, and as always, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Reach out to me on Facebook, Twitter, whatever. And thank you, and I'll see you next time.